actually echoing everything you said.
Don't worry about what I'm doing. Worry about yourself, Dave. That's what we're gonna learn today, I'm sure, at some point. That you need to worry about you and let me worry about me. Because I'm not Candace Presser, the psychotherapist, but I feel like I can psychotherapy.
Well, you got at least half of it down pat. You got the psycho part down pat.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay. You see, I hope she has a tally and she's keeping score because.
Oh man, I almost didn't even get that out. Yeah, I was so.
Because you're afraid of what happens when you go home.
I was so anxious to say it.
That's what it is. There's a little fear that is. Does that scare you? Are you afraid of me in any way, Dave? You know what our son said the other day?
What?
Our son actually said, I know that I'm physically stronger than you, but there's some part of me that feels like you might just be crazy enough to kill me, and I'm slightly afraid.
Well, I'm not going to say anything. Most of our guests come in, and they're always nervous.
Why?
And it's because of you.
I've never killed a soul. I've never struck anyone in public.
Well, we're going to ask Ms. Presser, the psychotherapist that is our guest today, just what that is about your aura that just gives off, I will kill you. That's all I hear every night going to bed.
I don't think anything
it's just like background noise now. Jeez.
Then you shouldn't sleep, should you, Dave?
It's amazing that I can actually sing on tune with in my ear at all times.
Anyway, let's get to our week in review. First of all, I am not going to hell. It's a fiery inferno in the valley. I've had it. I cannot stand it anymore. I've been trying to function in this BS. My neck, I want to turn around backwards so you guys can see this. Hold on.
Now, for some kind of magic reason,
my neck hurts so bad that I feel sick.
We're going to have to ask Candace this as well. Is that a placebo tape on the back of your neck? As soon as that tape comes off, Marla acts like her head's about to fall off. Oh my God.
Well, I want to ask you a question.
I can't do anything. You put the tape on, she's like, oh, I'm good. Whew, it's the tape. It's so great.
Is this a placebo finger?
Must be, because see?
Sometimes I'm a little out of sorts, people. I'm telling you now. Watch at your own risk today.
Man.
I feel so gross.
Marla is so grumpy
that I'm just like,
man, you've been gone. We've been gone for 2 weeks, and suddenly we come back and you're so grumpy. Why?
We've been gone 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, September the 6th Monday night was the first episode of Love and Hip Hop Hollywood. I want you crazy freaking ratchet ass people to know that you do not faze me. For all of you guys who have not raised Moniece, you can have the placebo too. Take that. Yeah, I mean, this is our real lives. It's amazing that first of all, I think you have to have a certain kind of stomach to do reality, which I'm clearly made for. And then you kind of have to have some kind of family that needs psychotherapy. And we have that. So every
time she looks in the mirror.
Yeah. So if you're not psycho,
maybe you know what? I might be the crazy one.
What's wrong with you that you married?
You might find out today that I'm the crazy one.
Maybe.
And that ink is coming
from your own head.
Jeez. Turn it off.
I have to tell you, we got to tell you a funny story as we move forward into our weekend review. David and I were asked to co-host Musical Boot Camp last Wednesday. Yeah. So we co-hosted, but here's what was funny about it. And let me give you a brief overview. It's a show where people submit songs that are supposed to be, just new artists.
Yeah, the hosts are Tangerine,
Steve Russell.
Yeah.
Howard Hewitt.
I think that's it for the official host.
But and then Eric Dawkins made his way in, but that's not even the point. The funny thing was, you're judging these songs sight unseen. People send it in, they say their name.
Independent recordings that are sent in, and you judge them, and most of them we turn down.
Thumbs up or thumbs down when you hear the music. Here's what was crazy. Howard Hewitt submitted, and you tell why. He submitted a song from his son and didn't say it. He's sitting in the room with us, and everyone ripped it apart. So much so that
it wasn't really a rip.
It wasn't a rip. But
I don't think I actually ripped anybody apart. But I'm going to tell you
this, though. It was more than any of us would have said had we known, because it wasn't a bad song. But
that was a bad look.
You're talking about being judged by some of the best songwriters, performers in the industry. So it's weird to the criticism was pretty specific and intense. And on that one, because of the nature of the music, the genre, I was like, yeah, Dave will take this one from me. I'm not even, I'm sitting on my thumbs. Yeah. And then he was like, yeah, well, I kind of like it. And that's my son. I was like, okay, so now
I knew something was wrong because the entire time he kept saying, hey, I kind of like this. Eyebrows up like, hey, do you like it? Do you like it?
That was when Musical Boot Camp almost became WWF.
And all I said was, you know what? The tracks, I love the fact that he used live instrumentation. Everything was great about it. It just sounded so much like a demo and versus a finished product like everyone else was turning in.
So one of the things we're going to deal with today, Candace, is why Dave has the need to be the good guy. Write that down. So yeah, Dave dogged the song like everybody else. So here we go.
The funny thing about that is Dave is a good guy. He doesn't feel the need. I'm not acting good.
Sometimes AVE could use a little ICK. Maybe Dave could be more of a dick sometimes and just be,
Okay. I think you got that covered. So anyway, let's talk about the new Take 6 project that we've been working on. You know what? What is today? In a week and a half, the single will drop.
What's the name of it? At least can you tell us that?
When Angels Cry.
Angels are crying at me right now because I know that my attitude is whack.
You know what? I think you've been around the love and hip hop thing so long. Dude, you're becoming ratchet.
It's not that. I'm not ratchet. This is pain management. Curse words are pain management. Shit.
Okay. Wow. Really? Really?
It's not ratchetivity. I understand Monisa's problem. She's in pain. That's what happens. It's pain escaping my body in 4-letter words.
Well, hopefully, Candace had to actually go to med school, and she can actually help you a little bit. So, oh no!
She said psychotherapy that deals with behavior. She didn't say she's a.
Go to grad school, but it's not med school.
Okay, do you know how to put on a Band-Aid?
I have an LCSW after my name.
Okay.
Not an MD.
Okay.
Band-Aids I'm good with.
Okay, good. Maybe the Band-Aid. Marla likes taping things on her body, so maybe that can help.
We'll work on it.
There's a new mall, by the way, that's opened up right across the street from our house. And I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is because in a time where it feels like that, everybody's trying to bounce back financially and all this stuff, there's so many people at this outside mall even when it was 172 degrees outside, that I'm angry. Now there's so much traffic that I have to walk across the street because there's nowhere to park. I'm not even kidding you. It took me 30 minutes to literally go 2 city blocks just to turn the block because there's a Costco in this mall, a brand new one.
Which is a good thing.
I couldn't get gas. I just, I finally did, but on the first weekend, yeah, well, I don't know when Candace went. Clearly, she has a special Costco pass that
Tell Candace to call us before she goes.
Yeah, it's not right. Anyway, so yes, we've been away for 2 weeks. For those of you who are looking to want to know when it is that I will make my particular introduction into an episode of Love and Hip Hop, you can find me next week Monday, where I'm inserted into the story from that point on. So for those of you who don't want to watch the other ratchetivity, I am going to come with some wisdom. I'm really even trying not to curse. So tune in. It should be good.
All right. Now, you may have heard us always say, referred from time to time, you hear us say, we've done it all, quote unquote. Well, the fact is we don't know it all. And today we have someone in the studio with us, Miss Candace Presser, who is a psychotherapist, and she's going to help us learn something about Marla. No, I'm just joking. About relationships, life, and issues that might come up. And, hopefully you'll learn something too. So sit back, relax, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Marla and Dave radio show on the Universal Broadcast Network. Current events, pop culture, the hot topics of the day. It's time for Mad News on the Marla and Dave radio show. Ladies and gentlemen, Marla and Dave.
Dave asked what my problem is. If I were in here acting normal, then what would Candace really have to do? Because she's already going to diagnose you.
Did you not hear what the announcer just said? It's time for Mad News. Oh. What do you have for us on the news front?
Oh, you want to keep me focused. That's what you're trying to do.
Yes.
Okay. Are you kidding me? They brought it to my attention. I think this has been a couple of weeks because we have been gone. But has anybody else heard about the preschool fight club in New Jersey?
Yeah.
So here's the deal. In New Jersey, there was a preschool, and the adults who worked in the preschool.
Just a couple of them. I don't know if it was more than that, but at least a couple of them were involved.
They were arranging bouts between the 4-year-olds, the preschoolers, and
fighting matches, preschool against another preschooler.
And they were then they were Snapchatting.
And they were putting them
on Snapchat.
on social media. Now, is Snapchat the one where it disappears?
Yes.
So they thought they were going to be okay because they thought it was going to disappear.
Right. So they were putting these babies, they were, pitting them against each other, letting them have physical brawls, and Snapchatting it. Do you know?
That is truly an Are You Kidding Me? What would you have done if that was our kids and you found that out?
Dude, there's not. We talked about hell.
Now, DJ said he's already afraid of you.
Yeah, well, whoever was involved with doing something like that to my children, I think that because God made me and created me and knows who I am, these things weren't allowed to happen to anybody in our family because I would not have a filter to hold back. I feel like the justice at that point when you hurt something innocent in my life is my justice to have. I'm going to try my best not to let you get to court.
Well, I'll say this. As long as the court system doesn't let me down, that person would be safe.
Yeah, I would never know. You'd have to fight me too.
I hate to say it like that. The vigilante justice.
You would trust the court?
For a little bit. See how it went down. Yeah,
okay,
I
but
have to
then,
admit.
yeah, anyway.
Let's move on. She said, what's up with Rihanna's pantless date? What
is the thing. When you are, I call them mega celebs, the Beyoncés and the Jay-Z's and the Rihannas and there's something about that I think that people say, oh, they have no consequences, but I'm really thinking that it's deeper than that. I think that they're so bored because they're so far out on a limb, they've done so much that they just press the limits. She went to a date literally with no pants on. So
well, you know what? If I'm the guy and Rihanna shows up with no pants on, at least I'm guaranteed. That's a good sign I'm going to get some that night.
I don't think so, Dave.
You know
She's
what I'm saying? She might really be saying, okay, the dinner's a formality.
And she had on like slippers. She had on Puma slippers and a Puma jacket that's a warm-up jacket with nothing underneath. No pants at least. Maybe she was wearing a thong. Maybe she wasn't, but why would she need to even put a jacket on? We've seen her nude. She went to an award show in a completely sheer dress.
Well, the dress had some kind of form to it.
No, JJ was out. It doesn't matter. Her nipples were out. She was nude. So we've seen you, Riri. Not a shocker. Bring us something else. Bring something new, boo.
Okay. Here's a segment that we call Agree to Disagree. There was a guy, I guess he was Algerian, and the girlfriend that he had turned into his fiance. Next thing you know, he gets married to her. Now, he's never had, I guess, any close relationship with her that got too physical because the day after the wedding, he wakes up and sees her for the first time without makeup and says, what the heck?
Sued her for $20,000 for fraud.
Sued her for $20,000 because the person that he saw without makeup looked nothing like the person that
he said he thought someone broke into his was trying to rob him. He said that, and that someone had broke into his apartment because the differences in how she looked. He thought she was an intruder.
Now Marla thinks that's it's a justified lawsuit. I think it's ridiculous because the light-skinned person with the makeup looked nothing like the dark-skinned person without makeup.
That's why she should pay.
Yeah, no.
We'll agree to disagree.
It was fake. Anyway, that's the Mad News. Back to the show.
This ain't your mama's radio show. Can you handle the truth? Then get ready for a real radio experience. Ladies and gentlemen, Marla and Dave.
Marla and Dave, and we welcome Candace Presser to the Madhouse. Welcome.
Yes,
right off the bat, Dave was trying to get you he was trying to inquire whether you would be qualified to clearly, I don't know what it was he was after, whether he wanted you to medicate me or put me in a straitjacket, but there was he was crying out for your help. And he said something about medical school, and you stopped him immediately, and you said, you have what behind your name?
LCSW. I'm a licensed clinical social worker.
Got it. Okay. So that allows you to assess our behavior, but not necessarily put any type of intravenous drip.
I'm not going to give you any IV drugs. I'm not giving you any drugs of any kind. Sorry to burst your bubble there.
Okay. All right. So...
And I don't have all the answers. I know you made mention of that earlier, too. I definitely don't have all the answers. My job is really to help you guys find your own answers.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Okay.
All this time I was thinking that, isn't America all about just let everybody else do it? Come on, Candace. Fix me.
I'm here to help.
Well, Candace, when you say psychotherapist, is that different in any way from just saying a therapist? Or
No, it's all the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
A shrink. You're going to see your shrink. That's what people think when they come to see me.
So
Okay.
I kind of want to get to know you because everybody, how the main thing is we know who you are at this point, but what in the beginning, what was the first thought or the passion that made you say, hey, this is the direction I want to go into?
Okay, so basically you're asking me what made me become a
Yeah.
therapist? Honestly, I was born. I feel like I was born to do this. This is who I was as a little girl. I remember being this person in my family and to my friends. I remember being 8 years old and being the kid in my family that tried to get everybody to talk about everything.
Wow.
So it's really innately who I am.
And how many people were in your family or are in your family?
My mom, my dad, my older brother, and myself.
So 4.
So yeah, I
So
knew.
at the
I knew-
table,
I
you
knew
would
at a
sit them
young
down
age.
and say, what's going on?
Well, yeah, I was always just the feeler, the helper. That's just really my personality.
Right.
So I kind of knew ever since I was really, really young that when I grew up, I wanted to be a therapist.
So would you describe your personality as very empathetic?
Absolutely.
And do you think
I'm
that
an
is the-
absolute empath?
Okay, good. And so when you say absolute empath,
Yeah.
now how deep does that actually go?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. That is there a point when you were younger that kind of almost felt like a burden in any way? Because
I think it honestly sometimes still does. I
Okay.
feel things very deeply. So I'm just a very sensitive, a highly sensitive person.
Does that mean that you take on other people's
I do.
issues?
I take on their pain, and I know that's one area that I actually need to work on for myself of not really internalizing their pain and letting them own it, that I carry it for them as part of what I do.
Yeah.
I hold it with them when I'm in the room with them, but then I need to find my own ways through self-care to not fully internalize it. But I'm going to admit that's my flaw. I definitely take on their pain a little too much and struggle because of it.
But does that help you then actually also help them find the answers or solutions to some of the things that they're dealing with? Because it seems like you have to go through the solution with them because you take it on so intensely.
Yeah, I definitely feel that it's a benefit to them that I'm as sensitive as I am. I think it's just sometimes a problem for me. Yeah.
So when you talk about your family, though, and this is always interesting to me, with your friends and your family,
Yeah.
do people tend to, I know as a fitness trainer, people are always apologizing to me when we go out to eat about what they're eating. I'm like, this is not a session. If you want to load yourself down with, carbohydrates and sugars, that's on you. Why are you apologizing? And they'll order and they'll do me like this. So I really want to have, but maybe I should probably do the salad with a naked chicken. I'm like,
Yeah.
is that what you want? They're like, well, we're sitting here with her. She's a trainer. I'm like, what's that got to do with anything? So my question to you is that a burden? When we talk about the burden of it all, do people tend to shy away, your friends and family, because they almost feel like there's something magical that you automatically kind of know what they're thinking? Like,
No, not necessarily. I don't think anybody
Like you're gonna
shies
judge them?
away. I hope they know I'm not judging them. I don't think they shy away. I actually experience the opposite, where I think people often still come to me, want to hear my advice, my feedback, my thoughts on a situation.
I'm talking about your friends, your
my
family.
Friends, my family, my friends, everybody still comes to me, and I feel like I can be very unbiased
Right.
with the feedback that I give and the advice that I give.
Even to family?
Oh, yeah. I try my best. I recognize when I'm in it, but I'm also able to sometimes step out of my family member role and try and look at things a little bit more
So you've
objectively.
never even...
It's hard. But,
And in the back of your mind, you've never had that thought of, are you out of your monkey ass mind?
I'll just say that. I'll just say that.
Really?
Oh, I'm just straight up. My friends, my family, my clients, they all know.
So
I'm
they
really
so they
direct,
pretty much have
honest, straight
learned.
up.
Don't ask you if they don't want
I
the truth.
speak the truth. I don't sugarcoat it. I just go all in.
I like that.
So now let me ask you this. When you're looking at Marla,
Okay.
what are your sensibilities feeding you at that moment? What's the feedback that you're getting?
I get really good energy from Marla.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm vibing over here.
Wow. That is, so Marla's got a leg up. Marla's got a leg up on me today. Oh, man. When you look at me, what vibe do you get?
You know what? I'm actually quite comfortable with you too. I'm not playing any favorites, I promise.
Wow. So Marla and I are on level playing
how
field.
can I make Candace
I'm gonna tip the scale.
uncomfortable with Dave? What vibe do you get about Mr. Sweet?
He seems lovely.
He's lovely. Lovely
Oh,
Tony
my
Sweet.
goodness. Well, before we go any further, 323-284-7826. Before we get into the juicy parts, I just want to remind you that is the number to call and speak to Candace, and maybe she can intuit something about that you're going through as well and help you.
Probably have to tell her because she didn't say that she was a psychic.
Actually, that's a little fun fact about me. Don't call for that. I don't do readings, but I've always been very intuitive and a bit psychic since I was a kid as well. Which I think helps with
What's your sensor line? Like, what is it like? In other words, when you feel, often I feel things about people, but what I've learned in my maturity is it's just not okay to say everything that you think or feel. What's that line for you between the knowing of something that's intuitive that you're feeling about someone and sharing it with them? Do you have a, is it always about being asked, or sometimes do you just say, look, there's something I want to...
So like advice or something like that. If there's something that I'm feeling that I want to share with someone, or, if they're asking me something or telling me something, I might say, do you want me to give you feedback on that? Do you want me to tell you what I'm thinking?
Even if they're not telling you. Like, what if someone isn't telling you, but there's something that you just is on your heart, you're burdened by something, and you just want to go, do you mind, like, can I give you some...
Then I might start with that. I don't usually just give feedback or advice to someone that isn't asking without asking permission first.
Okay.
Even with my clients.
Now, can you explain something for me, Candace? When someone says that they're psychic, I immediately have a level of skepticism that just pops up a little bit.
I'm with you.
Only because
that's his inner black man.
Only because I have a really good intuition myself, and I don't feel like I would ever call myself psychic.
That's why that's why I said intuitive / psychic, because it's not something that it's not a business.
It's not like you can say, your grandmother is contacting me.
I will never do that. What it is for me that I've noticed ever since I was a little girl is sometimes I know things, but I don't always know that I know them until they happen. Yeah.
Oh, you don't have you can't prove it with facts, but you just have a strong feeling about it.
I have, let's just say, a lot of strange coincidences, or I get intuitive.
Is there something, a specific incident that you can kind of give us an example of?
I can give you the first one I remember when I was a little girl.
Okay.
I think I was in the 4th grade. And I remember one of my best friends was not at school that day, and I didn't know why she wasn't at school. And my mom picked me up from school and said, she started to say, Melissa wasn't at school today. And I said, I know, she did a cartwheel and broke her arm. And I don't know how I knew it.
Just out of the blue?
I did.
Wow.
And that was one of those things. But still on a regular basis, my mom and I, it's kind of a gift, if you want to call it a gift, that we share in common. And
your mom has the same intuition as you do.
She's almost stronger than I am.
Wow.
But we'll think about someone or talk about someone that we haven't thought or talked about in a long time, and within minutes we will run into them.
Wow.
The phone will ring. Those types of things happen a lot. So it's a strong intuition.
Is that causality? In other words, do you think that...
That's so funny you would say that.
In other words, are you kind of conjuring up the interaction with the person? Because if that's the case, if you can think of a couple of dollars actually flying into my bank account, please think clearly and strongly.
I do. My mom and I often try to manifest George Clooney. It hasn't happened yet.
Wow.
Wait a minute. Ding dong. You have got to be kidding.
But we do often have the conversation, did we sense that they were coming, or did we somehow manifest. We don't know.
Okay, let me say something about Dave. Dave, I am sitting here, sometimes I'm just, that's how I feel when you say things. You said, and not that you're not intuitive. Don't do that. Don't give me the slave eye buck.
Well, now you know what this means.
No. A Zoolander? Here's the thing. You are such a logical, you're a logic-driven person to the point that I can know something about the kids, and even though I can't prove it, you will say to me, yeah, Marla, I know what you're saying, but until you actually see it, then you can't give it any credence.
Yeah, don't
and
get
I
me
totally
wrong.
am not on that page
Don't
because
get me
I
wrong.
don't need to see that. I don't need to see that there's paper in the printer to know that the printer's, there's a tray that's holding paper. In other words, but you're a person who's like, the paper is probable, but the paper tray could be empty. And I'm like, okay, I know there's paper in there. So you're a very logical dude.
No, well, all the things you're saying are
Except
correct.
when it comes to
but
your
when it comes down
spirituality.
to it, if I were to say accuse somebody of something, I might have a good feeling that I'm pretty sure that you stand to be accused and I'm justified in the accusation. I'm not going to level the accusation without actual proof, if that makes any sense. And I think that's fair for everybody. I might have a feeling that something's going on, but until I ask you and you confirm it, I'm not going to say, oh, yeah, it's true. To the point where I can go tell somebody else that this is true about somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Now, I might have a good feeling, strong feeling, and I might even have circumstantial evidence, but until I have hardcore evidence, I'm not going to say it.
I would like to swing my gavel at this moment,
Which
but I don't
means,
have one.
Candace, that you would have to agree with this, that Marla should not be a police woman.
Well, you mean a detective? I could be a policewoman because especially nowadays, it's just mayhem.
No,
bedlam and
Marla would be like the Minority Report. Remember that movie?
David did say to me at one point we were looking at what's the movie with come on, you guys can help me. Not Russell Crowe. Yeah, maybe. Anyway, he came back.
Nicolas Cage?
No, he came back and he had the 10 years later to avenge the death of his wife and his daughter, and he spent all that time catching this dude in prison, making plans and dismembering him and doing all this other kind of stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
With
Gerard Butler.
Jamie Foxx was
and Gerard Butler
was the prosecutor. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And
Okay.
David, you said, I was like, man, I love that movie because that's the kind of vigilante justice that he said, Marla, if that were to be anybody in our family, the problem with you is on your way to finding out the truth. Anything you suspected to be the truth, you would have killed 25 people.
Did I cut off your
Not you.
eyelids? Sorry. Let me try to sew those back on. I apologize. Look, they work just as good as new.
Yeah, well, anyway, I just feel like that I don't need as long a time, honestly, to make a decision. David is so methodical, and this is when Marla and Dave, today, this is kind of the plan too. And we're going to kind of air some of the perceptions we have about each other, and you might be able to see how we work, and maybe, why I should put Dave in a headlock. I don't know. But I will say this, that I think that Dave is, I'm annoyed at his sludge due to his being so methodical. Mm-hmm. Do it. I'm a doer. Mm-hmm. Make a decision and do it. Don't always pontificate and tell me about all the little details and all the little, because then by the time you've thought through it for 2 years, what we were trying to accomplish needed to take place an hour into the whole process. That was 2 years ago. So you're like, a year.
Which has to be balanced against Marla, and that might be true. I might take a little longer to analyze than necessary.
And he goes, I'm thinking, honey.
But as opposed to me, someone who impulsively and compulsively jumps out there over and over again, where you have to start cleaning up mistakes. If that makes any sense.
So it sounds like you guys have
So do you think I'm
different
compulsive?
styles.
I think your nature is very compulsive.
Give an example. Exhibit A. I can take
Before I give an example, let me say that you would agree with, at the beginning of our relationship,
Well, at the beginning, yeah, I
you
think
were far more compulsive, and you've learned to kind of
sure. I was a baby.
Subdue
At the
that.
beginning of our relationship, I was like 3. I was 3 years old. I was like, dude, I just took my diaper off. You want to do what?
And I was like, let me try to get the pin out of my diaper.
No, you were already walking around. Remember, you were driving carpool.
No.
You're older.
No, that would make me a very sick person.
Dude, you were 8. You were 8 years old in the second
While you were
grade.
3?
No, I was 6. But
I was
a
7
normal,
years old in second
You were
grade.
8. The second grade started in September.
My
You turned 8
birthday's-
October 23rd. That was in the beginning. I didn't come till January.
Okay.
You were already 8. And I saw you picking up the kids, and I
thought
saw
that
your
we
5
met
o'clock
in
shadow.
third grade, as a matter of fact.
We met in second grade. He had a 5 o'clock shadow because he was the oldest kid in the thing and he was
Okay.
like smoking a cigarette
So-
off campus.
So, Candace, let me ask you this. Are you the older sibling or the younger sibling?
I'm the younger.
Okay, so you can't help me there, because Marla's also the younger sibling, and so here's what I think. I think part of
See, he has his own. He's already figured it out.
I think part of what the difference between Marla and I and our personalities is I think that Marla also is very intuitive, but the difference I think is sometimes, and I think this might be what you were explaining about yourself, some people attach their personal feelings to most of the things that they intuit and that they feel. And so if there's a situation that I'm talking about, say with you, if I were that type of person, I would start to feel so sad if you were telling me something that you were going through. And it's sort of very empathetic, like you were saying about yourself. I think Marla has a little bit of that as well. And so that being said, just as she explained her issue with me, the sludge, I mean, look at the power of the words that she was using. They were very, there was a lot of passion there. And so I think a lot of times sometimes that can cloud some judgment. I'm just saying.
What I will say is that when we come back, we're going to get into our dilemma, and one of our big dilemmas, and find out what your advice may be in breaking the cycle of codependency. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, listen up. Learn something. 26 years of marriage from 2 unique perspectives equals 52 years of relationship experience. It's time for Ask Marla and Dave. Answers to your questions about life, love, and relationship based on Marla and Dave's real life experience. It's about to get real. Ask Marla and Dave.
Go ahead, Dave.
Now this is the
You read
Ask
this one.
Marla and Dave segment where we say, if you don't ask, we can't tell. You write in, you give us a question, you submit your questions, and we give you our legitimate answers from our perspective. We're not a psychotherapist like our guest here, Candace, but we do our best. Now, for the record, this is the first
I think I can handle this one.
This is the first time that I've seen this question, so I was chuckling a little bit. Excuse me. I don't want to take lightly your question. The question is, how can I... A woman writes in and says, how can I encourage my husband to allow anal sex play into our sex life? My whole body is his playground, and I think turnaround should be fair play. Turnabout should be fair play. Any suggestions? Now, the reason why I chuckle is because from time to time, Marla's constantly saying that to me, and for me, it's like, absolutely not. Because I'll tell you why. There was one time at the beginning of our relationship, and first let me answer the question. I think, first of all, that's between you and your husband, and for you to encourage him means that you don't actually take him past his boundaries more quickly than he's willing to go. And as long as he feels comfortable with the fact that you will, please, Marla, that you will actually go at his pace, I'm pretty sure that, whatever you guys are comfortable with, you'll be able to do. The reason why I'm not comfortable with that with Marla is because one time she was sitting on top of me. We had just got through, or we were about to have sex, and she's like, I'm just going to pee a little bit. And I was like, you better not. You better not. And literally... See how she started laughing? She laughed, and next thing you know, it came out, and she couldn't stop. I literally had to throw her off of me. She went flying, and I was so mad, I have to admit, I threw her pretty much across the room. It was like, yeah!
I was 117 pounds, and and this was at the tail end of several jokes that had been practical jokes. I'll tell you more about those when you write in next time. I want to show you these fingers.
Okay, and see, that's why. That's why Marla and I can't go here.
Let me
now,
explain
don't
something.
do what Marla's doing. This is
let me
the anti-dote.
This could be this. What you don't know. This is what most heterosexual men don't know. This could be all of your joy. If these two fingers find your prostate gland in the middle of sex, it could be the best orgasm that you've ever had tonight.
Yeah, and if those claws actually scratch your butt on the way in, it could
Tonight.
be the worst experience of the bloodiest experience that you've had.
These are no longer
today.
snake eyes, Dave. This represents all of your joy, right
Anyway,
here.
Marla is not weighing in on the question at all.
The question is this. I think that it's fair time that turnabout should be fair play, and I think, I hate to say it, but some assholes are created equally. And I feel like that if a guy thinks he should be able to go into ours, because that's expected, then it within the confines of the bedroom, just because you allow me some anal play does not denote your sexuality. It just may be a new experience. I think that you should start softly foreplaying. Just start at the taint and work your way into what ain't, and make him happy. Get him drunk.
www.marlandave.com. That is where you submit your questions. And if you don't ask, we can't tell. That's Ask Marla and Dave. 323-284-7826 is the number to call in and join the discussion. Marla has me flustered. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Marla and Dave radio show. Marla and Dave want to talk to you. Phone lines are open at 323-284-7826. 323-284-7826.
Okay, yeah, I told you. Marla, just like that. This is what happens. That's why. And whoever submitted that question, we keep it anonymous. If you're watching or listening to the show, I sincerely hope that you would not actually take Marla's approach, because your husband's reaction will be hell to the no.
I hope that all your dreams, sweetie, come true. You want that, and your dream could become his dream.
Are you talking about me, or are you talking about
I'm not talking about the person who
who
wrote
submitted
in.
the
You
question?
can go hand in hand together in the sunset. You just
Can I weigh in?
Yes,
Yeah,
back
please,
that thing
please.
up.
Here's my thought. It's a conversation that the couple needs to have before you move forward with it, because I think in relationships that trust and that respect really needs to be there, especially intimately. And so I think you need to have that conversation before you just go there and assume they're going to like it, because they might feel very violated.
You mean
never
anal
know.
ramming without permission
You
is
never
not good?
know. And honestly, from a whole other point of view, like I guess a therapist-y point of view, you never know what kind of trauma someone has that
That's
you
true.
might be triggering by violating that boundary. So I
Yeah,
definitely
it
think
might get violent after that. Like,
well, it just might create a very unsafe situation for someone. So I think it's a conversation.
Right. And you know what, Dave? I have to say this. I have to apologize to you, but applaud you, because even though our marriage has been a huge stress later, I don't even know how you survived the first 4 weeks, because in the first 4 weeks, and I'd like to tell Candace and Tony as well, that was the third of 3 practical jokes I played on Dave within the first 3 weeks.
that
of
wasn't even a
marriage.
practical joke. That was just like.
It was, yeah, but it had come at the end of me pushing you out of the house nude, and you were standing outside when the kids were all going to school, and I didn't let you in. And then the shower, Dave, the thumb in the shower. It all in the first 3 weeks of marriage. I don't even know how you stayed.
Yeah. Yeah, and so Nicole said in the chat room, for the record, Marla, that you're the anal fairy godmother.
You're welcome, Nicole.
Anyway,
I hope I helped you out.
Anyway, I'll
Pumpkin.
put it to you like this. Marla is such a practical joker that there's no way that you can trust. Her dad, to this day, her own father loves to fish. That's one of his passions, one of his hobbies, his favorite things, favorite pastimes. He will not get on a boat with Marla because he can't swim. And he's afraid that in practical joke mode, Marla will somehow, he'll be in the water and she'll be laughing on the boat.
My dad wiped feces on a rag and hung it up, and expecting either me or my brother, and it was me who wiped their face and wiped shit on my face when I was in high school and as a freshman. And of course, Dad, you got it coming, bro. Not these fingers either. You got it coming, bro. You got it coming. Yeah. And even though I will say this, my dad's ridiculous. I'm not going to kill him. Wait a minute.
But you might push him off the boat.
No, he literally, but he's serious. He's like,
You'd throw the
he's
life
like,
jacket.
He says, well, we're going fishing. What are you going to do? You going to take the boat? And he has a boat and he won't wear a life jacket. You going to take the boat or you going to stay on the dock? I said, dude, I'm not gonna drown you. Like, what the hell? Who kills their own
scare
father?
you a little bit.
See?
He needs his own
See?
psychotherapy. Anyway, let's get into our dilemma. One of the things that I really was anxious and excited to talk to you about once we realized that you committed and you were going to come on and be a guest was breaking cycles. So one of the struggles that David and I have in our relationship, let me speak for myself. He can weigh in on his own terms. Is
I'll get some popcorn.
yeah. One of the struggles to me is, as a young woman who made a decision to have a baby, get married, have more kids, support your family, basically I feel like I'm the dream facilitator for the whole like I'm the cheerleader, like let's go get them. So the cycle is, now that I'm here at 47, I'm struggling every day to figure out how to reclaim my me. And I find myself, even when I put my foot down, and a lot of our issues are financial issues. And I know one of them was that I said, I'm going to save this money aside, and no matter what happens, this is going to be money that I can reinvest in myself. And when the family is in any kind of a financial crisis or a tough spot or whatever, it's instinctual, and I fall back into the cycle of going back on the promise to myself and reinvesting again the things that are important to me back into the family. So what I feel like is, now I feel like, the things that drove me earlier no longer drive me, meaning that my kids aren't little. They're 28, 26, and 22. And even though they don't all have it all together, I'm ready to change the habit, but I can't seem to get out of the cycle of always fixing them, not fixing me, not really considering what I need, almost not being able to say no. And I keep falling back into this. This is now what I feel like, okay, this is what I'm designed to do. And I don't have the stomach to watch them flounder and die while I just go, oh, well, I'm here, but got to do me, and step over, crippled bodies to be able to get where I'm going. So that's one of the things that I think is an honest dilemma.
It sounds like an honest dilemma. That's a lot.
Okay.
So let's break it down for a
All right,
second.
let's do that.
I think they're not going to die without you.
Okay.
I think that you have to know they're going to figure it out, and the reason why they're not figuring it out is because you're there to do it for them. So I think that's a big piece of the enabling.
Right.
That you have to look at, like if I'm always doing something for you, the fishing analogy, teach a man to fish.
Right. He can feed himself for a lifetime.
So, but
give
if
him a
you're-
piece of fish.
Yeah.
Or give him a fish,
Yeah.
right?
But if you're always doing for your kids, then they're not really learning how to do it for themselves. And maybe it's all the people in your family. And they might be really pissed off that I'm saying this, to be quite honest, because you're talking about wanting to reclaim you. And that means setting some boundaries with them. And people don't always like when we change the rules, change the dynamics, and set some boundaries, because, you might have to start doing things for yourself that she's always done, those types of things. But at the same time, by reclaiming you, you're going to be so much happier of a person. That's going to be so much more enjoyable to be around. And it's also going to be much better for all your relationships. Because I think underneath the love that you have, that you truly have for your family, that you want to be doing these things.
Right.
I'm guessing, and I could be wrong, you can tell me, that there might be just a little bit of resentment happening, brewing, growing.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. I mean, and it's weird because, someone once asked me, was I jealous of Dave's career? And I can honestly say that I've never been jealous of his career. However, that word resentment, because basically the way our marriage has been set up is about facilitating and growing his dream in his life, even if we're included in that. And that doesn't mean that his dream in his life excludes me, but as far as careers and all of that, and actually being in personal development, I put that aside with the promise that we would get here and I'd be able to do me.
Well, here's the thing. The good news is it doesn't have to be one or the other. I think it is about balance. You don't have to give up taking care of everybody and being that rock for your family to take care of yourself.
Right.
So,
But it seems like at this point it kind of is, because I feel like that, and I feel like that's my flaw and shortcoming, because I don't have the heart to stay in it. And in other words, when I say stay in it, it's almost like, here's a great example. My youngest daughter is in Savannah. Mm-hmm. So when she's challenged with anything, I'm not there to see whatever the challenges are, which normally if I were there, I'd be like, okay, no, let's do this, and this. Or, you pick it up because you're seeing it. Mm-hmm. Well, when you have one that's living in the house and one that's around the corner, and it's almost like they position themselves in a place where I'm not capable yet of ignoring them, mm-hmm. because the consequences of their destruction seems like it's going to be way worse.
Mm-hmm. And for a little while, it might be.
Hi, Lamont.
Now, I'll say this. Nicole in the chat room, Marla, is asking what would have to happen in your mind for you that would allow you to make yourself the priority?
I could sit here and lie, but I'm going to be completely honest. What I really feel like is that I need a timeout. Like I actually need a physical timeout. And I don't mean, this is a sketchy thing to say, but nothing in me says I want to get a divorce, but I feel like I want to have, it's almost like separate bedrooms when you get older, because it's just too uncomfortable to sleep together because somebody snores too loud, or there's sleeping habits that elderly people cannot manage at that point. I feel like if I could have a place next door, I just have my own, I want control of my own everything. Even if it was a closet, I just want to live on my own. Like I want to experience my own independent life. Like I want to be able to decorate the way I want to decorate. I don't want to have to answer questions about anything, who I'm on the phone with, what I'm cooking for dinner. Well, what are you going to wear? Well, where are you going? Even the smallest things that are justified. See, the thing about it is I am very much a relationship person. So I'm clear that a relationship requires communication and responsibility. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's cool to be with somebody and not have the basic relationship pieces. You have to.
But one of the basic relationship pieces, too, is self-care. You have to be taking care of yourself to be the best partner, for your partner to be the best mom.
Right.
To be the best person.
And I think and to be honest with you, Candace, because no one in our life our children at this mm-hmm. point they are so broken in so many different ways that it does still make me feel like that making that move would be choosing me over them. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, in other words, if my kids were just like, I just kind of don't feel like it. Like Lexi complains all the time, but she's really good. Mm-hmm. So she's set up to exercise. She's gonna have blips, but she's good. The other two, it's like, okay, it's hard because there's so much dysfunction and imbalance there that it almost, again, it feels like leaving. To me, my heart feels like leaving a baby kind of to fend for itself, because I know their issues, mm-hmm. and picking me over them, and it's me that chose to have them, not them who chose to have me. So I want to be nearby, but in my own place.
But you also want to support them to learn how to take care of themselves so that they don't need you. They want you, they love spending time, but that they will be okay if you're not there doing everything for them.
Right.
That is the goal.
That is the goal.
Of raising your kids.
And I think that's probably where went all the way back to the relationship with Dave and I. That's probably where the resentment in our marriage comes in for me, because he has the opportunity, whether he enjoys it or not, he's gone. So in other words, I never come out of it. It's like I'm in it.
You need a break.
Yeah, he'll be in Cuba and he can say, I really want to be home with you guys, but you're not. You know what I'm saying? In other words, so whatever the crisis, I'm boots on the ground.
What would happen if you went to Cuba?
What would happen if I went to Cuba? Mm-hmm. Then he'd have to stay home and wear my clothes. I have a nice little outfit picked out for him. And I'd have to be in take 6. And I'd have to sing, and I can't do that because Tony has not been practicing with me, because we're supposed to go on our own tour. It's a lot of things. See, the way that my marriage is set up.
Let me jump in here right quick. Yeah. Now, see, for me, there were some signs that I didn't quite understand that Marla was trying to tell me at the beginning of our relationship. Like, for instance, in my mind, when we got married, Marla was already a mother. So for her to say, I'm not sure if I'm ready to be a mother, I wasn't ready to be a mother.
I didn't say that.
I wasn't ready to,
have more children. I said, let's wait.
To basically raise a family.
I didn't say that. So let's be clear, because I mean, it's not fair to not be clear, because that just doesn't make common sense.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
What I said.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Let me put it to you this way, and you just tell me whether you agree.
Okay.
When we got married, David said, you already have Moniece, who was 1. He said, we should go ahead and have all of our children now, when we're in our early 40s. This is a verbatim conversation. Our kids will still be young. Our kids will all be grown, and then we can do what we want. We'll be in a really good place. So have more kids. I said, I already know what it is to be a mom, and I would like to go ahead and finish school, because I don't want to have more kids right now. I know what this is. I've had one, and there's no surprises here. And I said, 1 is a novelty. 2 is going to be a career. That's a full-time situation, because we had 1 that everybody wanted to keep in the family, like responsible help. People were clamoring. We'd be like, no, she needs to be with us this weekend. But having 2 and having 3 means to me, now you've settled in and you want to be a full-time mom. That's what he's mistaking. So to say I don't want to be a mother, I never said that.
Okay, well, forgive the semantic, but as far as I was concerned, to me, having any kids mean that someone has to dedicate themselves to raising the children, whether it be 1, whether it be 17. And so for me, like I said, I didn't quite understand the weight that she was putting on this decision, because for me, we already had kids. Whether you have 1 or 10, you have kids, and you got to take care of the family. That's number 1. And number 2, from time to time, I think one of my main issues is that sometimes Marla's reaction, it's hard for me to, I feel like I need to interpret the reaction, if that makes any sense. Because Marla can be so mad that she feels like, just extremely angry, and then the next day she won't be so angry about it, if that makes any sense. So for me, I know that if I feel that upset, I'm going to be mad for a while, and it's something that's a real issue for me. But if I let it go and it's not an issue for me tomorrow, to me, I feel like, oh, that wasn't really an issue.
Well, it sounds like Marla's maybe really good at pushing it back down and getting business done. But that's where the resentments build.
Right.
So maybe in the moment you have a reaction and you don't really want to talk about it and process it.
That's what he's going to get.
And then you push it down, and then years later, you feel like all these resentments are brewing inside.
Well, I have to actually share something about my process when we actually return from this break, because what he says about the way I respond is factual and dead on, but there's a reason why.
Okay.
And so we're going to talk about what that reason is when we come back from this break.
It's time for the Marla and Dave Doghouse. Marla has something that should put Dave in the doghouse. Dave has something that should put Marla in the doghouse. You decide who gets a biscuit and who gets busted and ends up in the doghouse.
Oh, God. Dave.
Marla, what is your problem today? You just loose with your... Who are you looking at? Where are you looking?
I'm waiting for you to finish.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with you today.
I told you, my neck is broken. And what don't you people get?
Need I say more?
It is. My head hurts no matter what.
Need I say more?
Let me say this so you can understand the depth of what I'm saying. No joke, this morning when I woke up, I couldn't raise my own head off the pillow. I had to cradle my head and bring my head up off the pillow with my hands. That's how bad my neck is hurting. Go ahead. That's why you're in the doghouse, because you tried to break my neck last night.
Okay.
I'm sure it was you.
This is why Marla goes in the doghouse, and that's why I'm also glad that Candace is here, because at the end of the day, Marla A says her neck is broken.
Damn it.
But her head is still actually attached to her body, and she's walking around and talking, and she's
Dude,
not
fractures
paralyzed from the neck
happen
down.
without decapitation.
Number 2, she said it's my fault.
Uh,
So to me, there's a
Some
little
kinda
blame
way,
issue going on
Dave,
there.
I
So
think
Marla
you could fix
goes
my
in the
neck if you had
doghouse.
tried.
Ask Marla. She's saying she thinks I can fix her neck. Ask Marla who applied the placebo tape that's on her neck as we speak.
Did you call the tape? See, that's what I'm saying. Stop discounting. This tape is everything. There's metal in this tape.
Anyway, so now, Marla, is that your real doghouse?
Do you have a doghouse? Say yours, and then I'll come up with 50 of mine. Go.
What?
Do you have a doghouse? What's your offense this week?
My offense this week is something we've been talking about on the show. Marla always practically jokes and thinks that I'm supposed to just react to her practical joking in a very light joking mode just because her intentions were jovial and lighthearted. But sometimes to me, makes me mad. So if you go here and you still think it's a joke, it's not a joke to me, and I'll really be angry.
So you think that I go
and
too
the
far?
difference between Marla and I is it takes a long time for me to get angry, but when I get there, I'm angry.
Okay, well then my counter to that is Dave needs a better sense of humor. You knew what you married. You married me when I was in the 2nd grade. What the hell?
Okay, so you guys get to decide. Lamont, I know you're on my side.
My neck
who
is
goes
broken.
in the doghouse
Lamont,
and
shut
who
up.
gets the biscuit? I'll take that biscuit this week. Anyway, that's the doghouse segment. We're going to get back to the show.
What's the action?
You'll laugh. You'll learn. You'll love. You'll get mad.
Shut up!
You'll get happy. But you won't be bored. This is the Marla and Dave radio show on the Universal Broadcast Network.
Okay, let me get back to this. Let me explain to you. You brought up when we were Dave was talking about my process and his feeling like there wasn't as much weight early on in our marriage of the things that I was saying because I quickly tended to move on. That's who I really am. There's an energy that I don't like to hold. In other words, you get on my nerves, you're ridiculous, and then I'm over it. I don't like that, you know how when you were growing up and you decided to be mad at somebody your friend was mad at, but it was never really your issue, and you had to decide when they walked in the room to give them the silent treatment and that energy. I hate that energy because if I'm not really in that place, it's an effort for me to put on an emotional jacket that I'm not in that moment. And in reality, I'm a high energy person. Mm-hmm. I love to clown, joke, have fun. Sarcasm is like, that's my joint. That's my thing. I love it. Witty, I love it. So in other words, that's where I live naturally. That's my default. Mm-hmm. And so once I've expressed my issue, and I'm very passionate, so even with, like Dave says, if I happen to be mad at something, I'm tearing everything in the room up. I mean, verbally. I'm not a tantrum beat you up person unless you drive me there. But I'm going to really express, you're going to understand, and then once I've gotten that out, I'm done.
So are you talking about that you actually communicate how you're
Oh,
feeling?
absolutely. But
Do you feel like he really hears you?
No. Well, I thought he did because he's always quiet. But now I realize in retrospect, recently, in all the deep conversations we've had in the last 8 years, that he was just what he just told you. He never took what I was saying to heart because I would have an intense conversation and then I would move on and be over it. And if it were him, he'd still be he shows his intensity by pondering on it and dwelling on it. That's not who I am. So when I say to you, I called my father and said, look, you're still going to pay for college, right? He said, sure. So I went and checked the TSU, and I had 2 years to finish my communications degree. But David was intent on having more children at that time. That was not the path that I wanted to take. So I gave into that. I love you, D. And we planned and had our son, which then threw me into a cycle of full-time parent, no matter what. So I had to squeeze into this jacket, despite the fact that it was so tight, it gave me a yeast infection under my armpit. I had to put Monistat under here. And then,
oh, my God.
But anyway, seriously.
Ironically, I was her for a birthday party a few weeks ago.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Molly Shannon?
Yeah.
I love her.
Mary Catherine Gallagher.
Yes, a superstar.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how it was.
So how do you feel like there are underlying feelings that you're having about that sacrifice that you chose to make that time ago?
At this point, let me tell you how I actually feel. I've done so much work, honestly, Candace, getting to the point of I had to try to sort through my own emotional basket. And when I went through the basket, what I found out was I was combining a lot of issues. I chose to love and dedicate and commit to my family. So I don't regret any time that I have spent doing that with them. Period. I don't take any of that. I don't feel like, man, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I'd learned better skills because I could have been more effective for what I'm doing with and for them had I done more for myself in the beginning and put my foot down. I think I would have been a better Marla for the family because now I'm so deconstructed that I feel like pixels, like I'm pixelated, and I have to kind of, find ways to, squeeze me together.
You got to practice a lot of self-care.
Under all the pressure because now the system in which I've set up, I've got to buck against that system. And that's what's hard. What's hard is I am responsible for moving this ball forward. I was never kidnapped. No one forced me into marriage. I wasn't sold. I wasn't,
Well, the system needs to be altered a bit.
I get it.
For sure.
I get it.
And I think the big deal is everything feels really black and white to me, like it's all or nothing. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing, and it shouldn't be all or nothing. It's about balance, and it's about learning how to incorporate these things that are important to you. Like you were saying a few minutes ago, you have no regrets over anything. It's okay if you have mixed feelings.
I have mixed feelings.
But I think sometimes people have a really hard time acknowledging, if they love someone, being angry with them or something like that. No, I love them. I made this choice. I'm not allowed to feel that way. You are allowed to feel that way. They're your feelings. They don't have to make sense. And that's the part where, even though you like to be really logical, feelings aren't logical. They're feelings.
Right.
And so we can have all types of feelings completely contradicting each other, and that's okay. But you have to be okay with that. And so you don't have to choose being that rock in your family or being that person in the family or yourself. It's about finding a new system that works where you can manage both and they feel good.
See, and
Can I say something?
Yeah, please do.
And I think to me that is where, Marla and I are clearly different people. And when she says I'm very logical, I also feel very deeply. And so the logic is a way for me to sort of manage the wave motion of the feelings. And so what ends up happening is, to me, sometimes I have a problem with that, and that's my problem that I sometimes have with Marla's system, is that it's always either all the way over here or all the way over here. And to me, I have a hard time with that because that's why I say from time to time I feel like I have to interpret some of the things that she says, and clearly I got a lot of things wrong at the beginning of our relationship.
Do you interpret them on your own, or do you engage her and say, "Does this mean that?"
And Marla, can you weigh in on this? Sometimes when she's in a very angry mode, or the intensity of the feelings is pretty high, it's really not really a discussion. And so for me, there are times when I feel like, here's one thing I do know. Marla and I, at the base of everything, we're best friends. So we have absolute 100% love for each other. Whether, something happens and I end up living in, across the planet from her and she lives somewhere else, that love is going to be something that can't be broken. That I do know. And so that is what, and sometimes I guess that's part of my flaw. That's what allows me to say, I need to interpret this for her, because what I'm actually feeling is she doesn't have an interpretation of her own. And she's so upset, she needs a solution. And at this point, I don't see her actually going toward a solution. She's just overwhelmed. How can I help deal with this? And so I guess that's the nature of my me trying to figure out and interpret and intuit what it is that she needs.
All right, let me jump in for 1 second. When he does try to solve your problem, is that right? Solve it? How do you feel?
Mad, because what I really feel like is fix yourself. I feel like that he's presents himself in a way of I got it all together, and there's so many things about his own life and process that aren't tended to, that I feel like in the beginning I bought that bag of goods of you kind of presented yourself in a way of empirical. You have all the answers, and I'm a person who's self-accepting right off the bat. Like, I was flawed. Like, once I had made the decision to have my daughter, I didn't trust myself at that point. I feel like, okay, I failed myself, so now I need to listen to the people around me and kind of, I don't want to keep messing up. I want to become better. I want to turn the corner and be productive. I want to be, I want to be this different person within who I am. And so the way he presented itself, so I bought all of that, only to come back here and find out that I'm like, dude, you got your own stuff that's really deeply wrong.
So you don't like it when he's giving you the solutions.
Right, because those solutions don't work for me. I feel like that everything is geared toward David. I feel like he's very good at convincing me in a very logical way that this is always the best way, but that best way only tends to have an outcome that benefits him.
Well,
That's how I feel.
I'm not sure if this is what's happening in the example that you're giving, but oftentimes when we vent how upset we are about something, we're not wanting a solution. We're just wanting to vent.
And I
we're
think
wanting
that might
to
be
heard.
what's been going on and early on in the relationship. And see, to me, this is where I feel like Marla doesn't actually hear me. And I say this to her all the time. I fully get what you're saying. You don't ever hear what I'm saying. And it's always me trying to help her find a solution. And the point being is that I was never saying that I didn't have a flaw. But at this point, that's not what we're dealing with. You're overwhelmed, and so it's not my flaw that we're dealing with. We're trying to get you some relief.
But maybe in that moment when she's having that really strong reaction, it's not about getting the relief. It's just about being validated and feeling heard, that you get how overwhelmed she is. So instead of saying, why don't you do this? Why don't you go here? Why don't you try that? Blah, blah, blah. Instead, if you said, I'm so sorry you're feeling so overwhelmed. What can I do to make you feel better right now? I'm here for you. What do you need?
Let's find you a closet that fits what you want, that you can decorate and live in on your own. That's what I was
Take
waiting
a breather.
for. Yeah, let me help you with your timeout. What do you want, honey? You want to be in a closet? Look at this one. It has all windows. I'm down.
Anyway, for me,
this is one of those things that I actually work with couples all the time. It's about communication, feeling validated, feeling heard, and we do have a tendency when we see a problem going into fix-it mode.
Right.
But sometimes we're not ready for the solution. I just want to feel like you're hearing what I'm saying, what I'm feeling.
I'm just so tired at this point. No one really understands, and when I mean because they can't, and I get that because you're not me. No one's me. But if you understood the lack of foundation that I accepted, the full support, unconditional support I've given them all. For example, I say all the time, and David said, I totally get that. David sits here as a 10-time Grammy Award-winning artist. He's never, ever in 28 years of being a member of Take Six, because of me, had to miss a rehearsal, a concert, a trip, nothing. And I joke him all the time. I'm like, dude, you have 4 million miles on every airline. I have 450 in my car. I'm just saying that, so for me, it's not the coveting of what he does, but there's a certain amount of man, you wanted this big family. As a matter of fact, the joke is he was like, I want 4 kids. I'm like, dude, screw yourself and get a uterus. That's really where you're going to have to go with this, because and he was willing, once he saw what was going on, when we had our son, that's when he agreed to have a vasectomy. Lexi just squeezed under the mat. She got in. She got under the gate.
which we can use as an anecdotal experience, because even for me, having Lexi was a very having kids. It seemed like I had realized was a traumatic thing for Marla, and so I had misjudged where I thought that she was all along. So my suggestion at the time, and I love my daughter dearly. The other kids say that, I favor her, and, this is how kids do. But anyway, before she was born, when she was first conceived, I said, Marla, you sure you want to do this? You don't have to have a baby. Regardless of religious affiliation or anything like that, I said, it's absolutely your choice. As a matter of fact, based on what you say that you've been going through, I didn't understand it at the beginning. Now I do. I think you should have an abortion.
And I said no, and $300,000 college bill later. What the hell was it? No, I'm just kidding.
But see, for me, that's kind of my thing. And so to me, would life be easier all around if we had never had Lexi? Yes or no?
I say no.
You say no?
You know why? Here's why I say no. Because everyone now, and these are things you don't know when you're young. Everyone is born who they really are. But we as parents, which I will also say, both of us in our perspective or respective positions in our family and just as people have given 1,000% skin, bone, hair to all of our children. Lexi's the only manifestation at this moment in our lives that make me feel like that anything that I've imparted is something that she's actually taken, because they've all been loved and cared for. Matter of fact, the older two have so many issues, they took all of our time and attention.
And let me just say this. What I actually hear Marla saying when she says that is that Lexi validates her as a parent, as a good parent.
I would have felt like I failed
so for me,
with the other two.
For me, I am the type of person that can say, as much as I love Moniece, DJ, and Lexi, I can easily say I would be way better off if I had never had kids. I would have more money. My career would be in a different place, probably. All these things that I could say.
No, because you're not in that by yourself.
Just hold on. All these things I could have actually had more focus for myself. But because I had the kids, it's something that I actually don't look on and say, okay, water on the bridge. I'm going to give myself to my family. And at the end of the day, I can say both sides of the. I think I can see both sides of the coin and say, it has nothing to do with love for the family. It would have been better if we didn't have kids. But now that we do, it doesn't mean that we don't fully 1,000% love our kids. Does that make any sense?
I have to just say this. We have a chat room, so people are constantly in conversation. Kelly Baxter says, please don't forget the puppy and the puppy. Thanks, Kelly. You're dismissed.
But Candace, does that make any sense? Because we're going to run out of time. I want to give you some time.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't want to go back and think about what you guys should have done differently in your lives.
No, I'm not saying what you should have done.
Or what you could have done differently.
What I'm saying is it's easy for me to see that,
But here's the thing. I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Here you are.
Yeah.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda, it really doesn't matter at this
Absolutely.
point. Here you are. You guys have a beautiful life. You have a beautiful relationship with this amazing foundation that you guys are best friends. That's incredible. Now we got to work on the communication, the validation, really hearing each other, really supporting each other. I feel like, Marla, you said so clearly a few minutes ago, I need some space. I need to do me. And so I think that you've been crying out probably for a long time in this relationship of needing that. And so the dynamics in the relationship are changing a little bit. And so we have to figure out a way that you can support her so that she can continue to support you and the family in the ways that she and you guys have.
And that's really where it lies, and not in the way that you see that being able to work out. So when you suggest to me, why does it have to be that you want to basically be out here on your own or to do whatever or to be in your own space? Why can't I'm hardly ever home? Why can't you do it here? Because the reality is, number one, I don't want to do it. I've done everything essentially. The setup is the way you wanted it, and now what I'm saying to you is support. The support that I need. Sometimes it might feel mindless to your logic, but I'm no longer accepting doing this in a way that is going to make you comfortable, because that's what I've done.
Okay, and so there are times though that when I also hear, I also kind of want to punish you. That makes any sense. So
makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, I also kind of hear some of that. I want to punish you for the way I feel, because
we'll come back to that.
Because I also think that some of this is your fault.
Well, I can erase,
if not all of it.
I can erase that if you'll just take the fingers.
Anyway, 323-284-7826 is the number to call. We need you in this conversation. I know it might be uncomfortable, but it's actually productive. We're going to get back to another feature, the Mad Love Game.
It's time to play the Marla and Dave Love Game. Here are Marla and Dave to explain how it works.
Okay, the Mad Love Game actually is a game that was created by Marla and me. And Candace, I think you might be impressed by this. It consists of the 3 categories that we think most affect all relationships. turn it around. Finance, communication,
And anal sex.
Okay, there's no anal sex there.
Sorry.
Anyway, it's played by rolling a single die that has those categories on it. It also has the M.A.D logo, which means that you can choose any category that you want. And then it has lose a turn. The fun part about this, other than the funny questions and the very probing questions that Marla and I came up with, is the, no pun intended, yes, the further discussion questions. So when you're playing with a bunch of your friends, it kind of lends into deeper discussion. And sometimes, and we found that that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And it also kind of helpful, and it kind of takes some of the serious edge off of deep issues that you can actually talk with your friends. Anyway, it's played by rolling the die, so we're going to let Candace, our guest, roll the die. Oh, she gets to choose.
Wow. So you can pick
Now,
any one of those 3 categories you like, and
now,
Dave is going to encourage you
Candace,
to take
most
sex.
people choose sex, but I'll let you choose.
The therapist in me has to go for communication.
Communication. How did I know that was going to happen?
Sorry, Dave. No sweet dreams for you, buddy.
All right, so this is sort of a bridging the gap of the two. Here's the question, Candace. Other than a man's physical attributes, what do women generally think is the most attractive trait in a man?
Oh.
Oh, you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Communication, sensitivity, honesty.
Okay, so if
So
you had to
other
pick
than
one,
physical,
other than physical, if you had to pick one.
I like sensitivity.
Sensitivity. So, okay, I'm going to, first of all, our answers come from the PEW, the Pew Research Center.
Mm-hmm.
And most women think that humor is the most
If
attractive
you're not
trait
funny,
in a
you
man.
suck.
That's true too.
Okay. So now for further discussion, for the further discussion point is what other traits catch your eye? You
Yeah,
said sensitivity.
you know what? I
If
gotta
it's a
say-
guy that's crying all the time,
No,
is
not
that
sensitive that he's crying, but someone that's aware. I like someone that's just aware of other people's feelings. I'm not into narcissists
You
personally.
don't like the dick.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I want
We
someone.
prefer the
who's-
Dave, not the dick.
Yeah, someone
Okay.
who knows how to communicate, who's aware of someone else's feelings. So
All
that's
right,
what I
let-
meant by sensitive.
Since you said the therapist in you goes for communication,
Yeah.
let's do one more communication question.
Okay.
Do women, in your opinion, have a positive response to a man who uses a pickup line? Hey, Candace, I don't know where is that a? You must have come from heaven because you're an angel, kind of thing. I'm not even good at them.
I have heard them. I think if it's funny, I'm gonna laugh, but it doesn't mean I'm gonna be interested.
Okay.
I have actually.
Because I do like humor.
Someone has gotten my attention before, and it's so rare that I probably know a couple of them. Like one guy one time said to me, "Can I get you something to drink, like a sidecar?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not drinking." And he said, "Oh, so you look fit. You're into health and fitness." And I said, "Yeah." He says, "So why don't we just like jump out of here and grab a Jamba Juice?" Or something he said, like a pressed juice or something. Whatever it was, the setting was so opposite that I just started laughing because that was funny to me. Like he kept trying, and he finally came back with, "Why don't you and I go get some cold pressed grapefruit juice?" And I was like, "Okay, that's funny."
Well,
But
you
anyway.
guys are correct. The answer is no. Pickup lines are usually a way for a man to shield his ego.
Have a conversation. Be
And
you.
so, for further discussion, Marla was also giving one. Candace, what's the most ridiculous pickup line you've ever heard?
I'm not sure if I can remember the most ridiculous, but I do remember one from college where a guy said to me, "Is your dad a gardener? Because he picked the prettiest rose."
Oh,
pretty cheesy,
That's not
Did you
ridiculous.
give him one date? Did you
No,
Oh, bless his heart.
but I was flattered.
Sweetie.
Well, Candace, thank you for playing the M.A.D Love Game. You can get your own copy of the M.A.D Love Game by going to www.marlandave.com and go right there in our store. Marla, what's our store called? M.A.D Merch.
M.A.D merch.
There you go.
It's where you'll spend your dollars. Yeah. Make it rain.
You make it rain on Marla and Dave. Anyway, let's get to our poll question.
Oh.
I never do anything without thinking about it first.
Marla is a feeler.
I basically wear my personality on my sleeve.
But when Marla and Dave get together, it's like a match dancing with a firecracker. This is the Marla and Dave radio show on the Universal Broadcast Network.
All right, it's time for this week's poll question before we get back to the conversation with Candace. The poll question this week is: Kanye West had another epic speech or rant at this
Few weeks
year's
ago.
VMAs a couple of weeks ago. Are his outbursts strategic or stupid? Your answer options are hashtag brilliant or hashtag boisterous. So that would be strategic, hashtag brilliant, or stupid, hashtag boisterous.
Well, what was the vote?
Oh, that's on me to come up with the answer. Jeez. Marla, just ad-lib for a little while.
All right,
while I get to this.
ad-lib. The question this week that I'm going to be asking, you'll find the poll questions on www.marlandave.com right there on the front, but it was brought to my attention, which I thought was very interesting, that Caitlyn Jenner is going to be going back to Bruce with a new series that they're talking about called Back to Bruce. So, was the whole thing a hoax, or was it just, I don't know. I mean, the question will be there, but that is the question we're going to be asking in this week's poll. I find that to be very interesting. And I think that the offer right now on the table is $2 million to do the second series. And he's lost 49% of viewers from the time that it aired the very first time.
For the record,
almost 50%.
It kind of makes me mad. Seems like it's a strategic manipulation in the media of the public.
So he made
That's all I'm saying.
he made millions of dollars.
I kind of feel that.
How do you like those vitamins, Dave? Are they making your nipples tingle?
Anyway, getting back to the answers, the way the document that we're reading from was written, I wasn't sure whether that was a new question. But for the Kanye West question, most people 100% wrote in and said stupid, hashtag boisterous.
10 million, Dave.
Sorry, Kanye. So weigh in right there at www.marlandave.com on the poll question for this week about Caitlyn/Bruce/Caitlyn back to Bruce Jenner.
There you go.
Back to the show.
Can you handle the truth? This is modern American dialogue in a mad world from two unique, fresh, transparent perspectives. This is the Marla and Dave Radio Show.
All right, so now, Candace, I know we kind of laid some heavy issues on you, and thank you for being very understanding and having patience. As we come down toward the end of the show, what would be your best advice in this particular situation for Marla
to
and I?
anyone? I mean,
and to anyone going through this, because in the chat room, some people were saying, this is a good thing to bring up because my mom is going through the similar issues.
Their mother.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think communication is huge. Having a safe place and a safe person that you feel comfortable exploring these issues with is really important. So I highly recommend finding a great therapist that you feel like you can have these conversations with. That would be number one. You guys have to continue this conversation. Like I said, I love the foundation you have in your relationship, but I think to take it to the level that you guys want to continue to grow to and eliminate a lot of these resentments that I think are building is going to be through communication and really good therapy.
Can I ask you a question, Dave? Are you resentful? Because here's what I do feel. I speak so openly all the time about my issues, and I try to do that as responsibly as possible because I love you. But more people know probably how I feel. Do you have any resentments?
I'm not sure exactly the question because you kind of couched it under more people know how you
Meaning
feel.
I
What do
say
you mean by that?
I've never taken the time to ask that. I just said to Candace, I definitely am resentful for these reasons. But I never even stopped. We've been through the same 27 years of marriage. Do you have any resentments?
Well, to be honest, thank you for asking. But to be honest, I think I've said the things that I resent most often. But I think we're usually dealing with the level of overwhelming issues that you're dealing with, that issues that I feel just kind of get pushed under the rug. And I'm not saying that in a way that, you take lightly the issues that I have. It's almost that we don't have room in the relationship for me to have issues, if that makes any sense. So it's not that I think I'm a great person, I'm the greatest, I'm Superman. It's just that we don't have room to deal with because we're always dealing with some of Marla's issues. And on top of that, I think if I have to say the one thing that I'm most resentful about would be the fact that some of the positions that Marla says on one hand that no one forced her to make certain decisions, but her entire explanation almost seems like a blaming of me for the position that she's in, if that makes any sense. And so that kind of does really grate me the wrong way. And so much so that there are times when I even have to couch how I address it, because if I couch it in the wrong way, Marla's she's very sensitive to semantic, if that makes any sense. To me, I'm not as sensitive to semantic itself, just what it is that we're talking about, the subject matter. But Marla's very sensitive to semantic. And so if I bring it up
Called
the
the
way
vagina.
if I bring up the way I feel about certain things, I still feel like I also have to couch it in the right words for her not to be offended, if that makes any sense. So sometimes that takes so much effort, it's just like, forget it.
And I'm wondering how you feel about the fact that there isn't room in the relationship for you to have your issues too.
I think a lot of men are almost groomed to be that way. You know what I'm saying? You're
Even
supposed
if
to be
you
the
are,
stronger.
even if you are groomed to be that way, it's okay to have feelings about it. It's
Oh
okay
yeah,
to be
no, it makes me mad.
frustrated.
It makes me mad. It
There you
makes
go.
me frustrated as a mug. I tell all my friends, there are times when sometimes you have to let those frustrations out. I remember Marla and I would be in arguments, and I would get up, just, oh God, please help me not to lose my temper, and help me to actually keep things on the level. And I would do that in her presence. The minute she would leave, I would be screaming to the top of my lungs, cussing her out. I mean, just like,
So there are some feelings there.
I never heard
Like,
that, Dave.
yeah,
Did you do
no,
that?
I don't do that
Fourth
because,
tenor?
again, and to me, I'm doing that because she's always so overwhelmed that if I put my issues on top, and say, hey, consider me more, when she already thinks that that's all she does.
Well, I think it's about learning a new style of communication, to be honest. You guys have been doing what you've been doing for 26, 27 years. And I think that it has gotten you this far, which is great. But I think it can be that much better.
I think that a good start would be me going to Australia for 3 weeks, and then just thinking about it. I just need to go there and think about things, and down under.
And then come back and go to therapy.
That'll be good. Yeah.
No, you won't be good. You'll be a little better because you need that break. But then I think you guys need to continue this conversation with someone that you feel comfortable with. Just saying.
I happen to agree.
I happen to agree as well. I think that all healthy relationships it's like eating healthy food. Just because you're a healthy person doesn't mean that you shouldn't continuously eat healthy food. So just because you have a healthy relationship, or maybe a relationship that needs some help, it still means that, to me, you have to, like going to the gym for maintenance. You need to consider going to a therapist on a maintenance level.
And going to a therapist doesn't mean there's ever something wrong, like you just
Right.
said.
It
It's
might be
just nice
maintenance.
to have. It's absolutely maintenance.
Well, Candace, you've been wonderful. Can you please tell everybody how they can find you? I know everybody has social networks. They have websites. They have contact info. Can you share that with our listeners?
Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome. I have a website. It's CandacePresser.com. And you're welcome to check out my blogs. And I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter as well.
Nice. And Presser is
Awesome.
Presser.
Yep.
Candace Presser.
And if you need more information, that information will be on our website, www.marlaanddave.com. Candace, again, like Marla said, we really appreciate you taking the time out to kind of hook Marla and Dave up a little bit.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Dave, you just heard right here, I'm going to be headed to Australia to start my sabbatical.
Yeah.
Tony, I'll be doing, anyway. Yes.
Oh, Tony can go.
Tony can go. Anyway, thank you guys so much for coming by. Next week, we're going to have a lot of fun. I know that the Baxters are in town, and Lamont has got a lot of wisdom to impart about finances and maybe some other surprises. Dave will be in Cuba because his life is so stressful.
Technically, I'll be coming back from Cuba.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
be here. Yeah.
So Dave will be on a mojito detox. So he might miss next week's show, and if he does, we'll hold it down here in the Madhouse. Always a good time. Next month, guys, we have some really cool stuff coming up, including I'm going to try to get, I'm working on a gynecologist that's a specialist, and he's going to be talking about vaginal reconstruction. One of the things he said is you either get your vagina redone or you have a cesarean section, one of the two.
We are Marla and Dave, and we're navigating the mad world of relationships.
From inside of ours.
See you next week.